But Cate Blanchett has come out very recently on the red carpet wearing a gown which kind of resembled a Palestinian flag.
Maybe people are just seeing this as a Palestinian flag because it's everywhere right now. Right? It's like confirmation bias, I think they call it.
Yeah. It really caused a big hoo-ha in the UK when that happened.
So this season is focused on her falling in love, hopefully, with one of the Bridgerton brothers and everything that entails.
Hi everyone, today we are going to be talking about a Syrian artist who's exhibiting at the moment in Dubai.
And Arab rom-coms on Netflix.
And also the hit series Bridgerton is back.
It's back.
Hi, I'm Enas and Refaei here at the National News.
And I'm Jalal.
And this is Culture Bites.
Hi.
Hey.
We are missing one.
Missing one. Bum, bum, bum. My daughter does this thing at the moment where she goes, wah, wah, wah.
That's like a Three Stooges slapstick kind of sound. I think that's where it comes from.
And I don't know how she's like learned that because she's 8.
It's weird. Yeah, and it's also a very olden day. It's like an older humor. I mean, Three Stooges, it's like the 1950s.
It's old.
It's old.
How does she know that?
It's interesting how this stuff filters down through she's what, Generation Alpha? Is that what they called her?
What are they? She's 8. Yeah,
so Generation Alpha. Which is a scary name for a generation.
She the other day, like I had to explain to her things like this blew her mind that she saw somebody on a film or something press a button on a phone.
Oh, like an actual button.
An actual button, and she was like, "What?"
Yeah.
There were buttons on phones, and I was like, "Oh, babe, you've never you've never made Mama feel so old."
Yeah.
I was like, we used to have to type in the numbers, and she was like, "What?"
There's a series on YouTube where they give kids like a tape recorder or like a stereo and say like, "How does this work? Make it work." And they just sitting there trying to figure it out. They don't even know what it is. It's hilarious. It's very sad, but it's hilarious to see how quickly technology has evolved.
It's so moved on.
Yeah.
I mean, the other day I was doing my internet voice.
Oh, broadband, of course, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Triggering. It's triggering.
Trying to go on MSN.
Or you can tell when you're online when your phone's about to ring because the internet would just go and then your phone would ring.
To be honest, actually, when I first started out reporting, that still used to happen when I had my radio mic.
Oh, really?
Like it would pick up that signal, and so I'd have to I have to record it again.
Yeah.
And go,
yeah, it's crazy. And now everything's just in your phone.
And
we have to take turns, me and my siblings, to use the internet because somebody would be on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't be on the phone and the internet at the same time.
Yeah, my barber would come and have a right go.
Yeah.
You'd hear the noise. Enas!
Well, I'm one of 5 siblings, so can you imagine? Like trying to get
wow.
It was intense.
Carnage.
It was political. Political games all the time.
How has your week been?
Good. I started reading this amazing book that I want to tell you about.
Okay, go on, talk to me.
I'm going to hold up to the camera so you guys see. It's called Counterfeit.
Ooh.
By Kristen Chen. Isn't that a cool cover?
It's a really cool cover.
Somebody even called it jazzy.
It is quite jazzy.
Would you say jazzy?
I mean, it's not the kind of, I have to be honest, it's not the kind of book cover I would pick up.
They say don't judge a book by its cover, but I mean, they designed literally to be judged by their cover.
Yeah, I know.
But what about this you don't like?
I don't like the colours. It's a little bit like
Does it feel
political.
Political?
Yeah, like the Obama change feels a bit like that to me.
Oh, okay.
Red and black.
I just thought you'd be. It's very very rom-com-y vibe.
Yes.
I thought maybe you're a bit embarrassed to be seen with a rom-com-y vibe.
Yeah, I've lost that. I've stopped getting embarrassed by the book covers that I carry around.
Yeah,
I used to be.
No,
I was
don't get
so
embarrassed.
pretentious, man.
I was carrying 50 Shades of Grey. I don't care.
Really?
I don't
oh
care.
no, I was really pretentious. God, if it wasn't a Penguin classic, I wasn't
Oh, really?
anywhere near it.
Must be the SOAS vibe.
It was definitely part of my university thing. I definitely remember at one point. God, I'm so pretentious. Everyone's going to hate me. I've moved on. I've grown up. But there was a time when I took like Plato on holiday.
Oh, really?
Who was I? I never read that.
I mean,
it just looked very cool.
Say,
it looked very cool at the beach.
Good for the Instagram photos.
It was before Instagram. It was really tragic.
Oh, wow. I mean, you were really doing it for the immediate environment, not even not for the Instagram photos.
I think I was trying to find a husband who was clever.
And did you?
Yeah, but not through that book. So
but this one,
yes.
It's a Reese's book club pick.
Yeah.
You know, Reese Witherspoon, she has a book club.
She's so smart.
She
is super smart.
She's
business
amazing.
move. But
So it's a book about a woman who is a lawyer. She's married to a very a well-known doctor, and they have a toddler who cries a lot. And so she's working from home now, but she's kind of not very fulfilled in her life. And so she ends up reconnecting with an old roommate who is selling counterfeit high-end luxury bags, like Birkins and Hermes bags and Chanel bags. And she kind of gets drawn into this world of selling these, fake bags that are like very, very convincing fakes. And you get to learn about the industry of fake luxury goods and how there's a hierarchy even within that. Like, this is a really good fake and like a bad fake, and how like there's all of this stuff happening.
I mean, yeah, everyone knows about this industry, surely, because it's so prevalent, isn't it?
It is, and it's based in the US and in China, because China is where a lot of these bags are being made. And you see her sort of going into the underbelly of this world, and how like it's very like, I guess you'd say immersive, and how there's so much stuff happening there, and how she gets caught up into it because she's just like a housewife who's like a lawyer. She's very successful. She's very like by the book. And what's cool is that the stories, she's admitting everything to a detective.
Wow.
And we're reading that as what happened. So it makes you think twice about the fashion industry. Like, what is actually real, and why is it good, and why is it so expensive, and why is it such a statement,
Ooh, I'm going to read that then.
Yeah, it's very good. Confessions? Counterfeit by Kristen Chen.
Okay, great.
Yeah, read
That's amazing. What else have you been up to this week?
I've been watching the news.
Yeah.
Seeing what's happening across the spectrum of culture.
Have you seen the footage from Cannes?
I've been seeing some stuff. Did you see the red carpet?
I have been watching the red carpet, and I love watching all the gowns and everything. And I know we've spoken before about it, but Cate Blanchett has come out very recently on the red carpet wearing a gown which kind of resembled a Palestinian flag. Did you see it?
I did see it. People are talking, I mean, she hasn't come out and said that it is, but people are sort of placing that on the dress. They're assuming that it's like a statement to support Palestine, because the dress looks like the Palestinian flag in the terms of the colors. It's green, black.
It's very subtle though. The green is like the lining in the trail.
Yes.
So only when she holds up the dress can you see this like green lining, and there's kind of like a faint pink rather than a like bold red. So it's really interesting. I'm really intrigued to know if anybody else feels the same, but she hasn't said anything. She has supported the ceasefire before.
Yeah. Actually, I have a quote of what she said, but I think it's kind of anyway, in November, she said she addressed the UNHCR European Parliament. She said, "I'm not Syrian, I'm not Ukrainian, I'm not Yemeni, I'm not Afghani, I'm not from South Sudan, I'm not from Israel or Palestine. I'm not a politician, I'm not even a pundit, but I am a witness." So that was like her asking for people to, have a ceasefire, for governments to think about a ceasefire. But what kind of irritates me is like, why do you have to be subtle in what you're wearing when you've already sort of spoken about it? Just say it. Just say, I'm wearing a dress that is, why do you have to be elusive about something like that?
I kind of like it. I'm going to say that I think it's good.
You're going to be combative with me.
Yeah, I am, man. Yes, Farah's not here anymore to protect you. No, I just kind of like that kind of like subtlety. Like, let people talk, because it's still bringing up discussion. It's not in your face. It's letting people make a discussion out of something. I think it's like cool to be subtle sometimes, and you don't have to have it written on your hands. Like we've seen some people have like Free Palestine written on your hands and things, or like, wearing watermelon or some other kind of symbol. I kind of like it when you can just be kind of subtle, and you can let people when you're that famous, you have that scope. I think
also when you're that famous, I mean, she's won like 2 Oscars and a bunch of other stuff. Like, nothing's going to happen if she says, I asked for a ceasefire, or I'd like a ceasefire, or I'm wearing this in support of Palestinians and Free Palestine. Like, there's nothing wrong with her saying that. So I always question, like, why do you have to be elusive? Like, what is the point?
I liked Amal Clooney hasn't come out and said anything.
Yeah,
right?
I've heard about this as well.
So Amal Clooney doesn't come out and doesn't say anything, and she gets criticised like, oh, Amal Clooney, you should be talking about Palestine.
Because she's Lebanese and she's a human rights lawyer, yeah.
Bingo. But then it comes out this week that she's been working on the ICC case.
That's confirmed?
Well, I don't know, but like people are talking a lot about it online. So it's like, oh, interesting. So like,
you never know.
You just don't know. And sometimes it's like, if you are doing stuff in the background, being subtle in the foreground might be a way of kind of like not protecting yourself necessarily, but maybe a way of like just
being able to
yourself.
Also being able to operate the way you're doing it behind the scenes. Maybe it helps not to be so in everyone's face. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a very complex, complicated matter, but
As journalists.
Yeah. And, everything's connected as well. Like whatever you're doing is kind of connected. Like maybe people are just seeing this as a Palestinian flag because it's everywhere right now. Right? It's like confirmation bias, I think they call it. But
we're just waiting for Palestinian flags.
Of everything being connected.
I love this. Segue king.
Segue. I've just seen an amazing exhibition at Ayyam Gallry. Have you been in Alserkal Avenue?
Yes, I have been.
Yeah, it's a really amazing, beautiful space, and they have great shows of a Syrian artist. He's Syrian but based in Turkey now. His name is Khalid Akil, and his new show is called The Infinite and The Finite.
Yeah.
And it is...
What is it about?
So it's about he has about 20 paintings, and they're really massive, and it's about this idea that everything is connected. So the molecules, the stars, the planets, how we think, how we act, how we're all connected to each other. We're all made up of the same stuff. And it's this very philosophical deep dive into how everything is one thing, even though it's separate individual things.
I love that.
Yeah.
And is it painting or?
It is. It's paintings. And it's his first foray into painting, because he was mostly known as a photographer. And the paintings are these massive, massive paintings where you see first clouds in the background, but on top of the clouds, they're very ethereal and they're massive clouds. They look like they're moving. And then on top, there's all of these thin layers of paint that are interacting with each other, and they create these this kind of chemical detail. So the paintings are these massive clouds that look like they're moving, very ethereal. And on top of them, there's all these layers of thin paints that have been painted over and over again. And there's a chemical reaction in the paint. So in one painting, just to give you an idea, you have these detailed clouds that are floating, but you also have the same detail that you would see if you're looking through a telescope. No, a microscope.
A microscope. Okay, yeah.
All these details of bacteria and molecules.
Fascinating.
And also it looks like you're looking at a telescope in the stars. So he's kind of combined these two very micro and macro elements that we see in the real world into these massive, beautiful paintings.
I love that. Yeah. So why did he move away then from photography? Because it sounds kind of photographic.
It has photographic elements, but he became really famous in 2016. He went viral for his Pokemon Go series, where he used photographs from Getty of what's happening in Syria. So the bombed out buildings and kids on the street. And he superimposed images of Pokemon Go characters, because in 2016, Pokemon Go was massive.
It was huge.
It was huge.
Did you play it?
No, I wasn't really a fan of that. No.
My husband did.
Oh, he liked it?
I probably shouldn't out that, should I?
No. I mean, I'm not sure if people are still playing it.
I think they are. I think people are still playing it. Yeah.
But so he kind of had that contrast in these images of lost childhood. These kids should be playing Pokemon Go, but look at this destruction. But then after that series, he moved from Syria to Turkey, and because of the war and because of lots of different life experiences, he felt like the photography as a medium wasn't allowing him to express himself in the way he wants. And he felt like painting kind of allowed him to be a bit more philosophical. I can't say that word. Philosophical?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Sounds weird.
Philosophical.
Allowed him to explore more of these bigger existential ideas about what does it mean to be human? Why are we always thinking about infinity? You can never really put a number to infinity. Think time just keeps going and going and going. And the only way to get your head around infinity is to understand that it just never stops. And so that relates into his paintings. When you see his paintings, it just looks like you're looking at a view of something that's just keeps going and has continued and will never stop, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
So
that sounds that's stunning. I love those kind of paintings. So how does he plan them out then?
So it was interesting talking to him because he doesn't do sketches or plan. He kind of paints just based on his instinct. So he will do these clouds and then he'll put a wash of blue paint, and then he'll come back to it and then put pink. And it's all very instinctual. It's all based on his guts and what he feels will work on the painting. And he's kind of working from a part of your brain, the subconscious, I guess, part of your brain.
Oh, nice.
But you know what's really interesting that I've noticed?
Go.
So I've been interviewing a lot of emerging or young artists from the Middle East. And I'm seeing, even though all their work is different, I'm seeing a thread through all of them that is similar to what was happening with abstract expressionist painters like Pollock, Mark Rothko,
Yes.
Barnett Newman, who were painting in after the Second World War.
Yes.
So they started painting these paintings that were very much about color and texture and the process of creating work, because they were trying to make sense of the world after World War II. Because after World War II, they were all shocked by what had happened in Europe. And so in a way to make sense of that, they stopped thinking about figurative, like I'm going to paint a chair, I'm going to paint a person who's crying. They wanted to paint emotions through color and through the process. And I'm seeing that same thing happening actually with a lot of young Arab artists right now who are sort of reacting to what's happening in the Middle East, whether it's Syria, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Palestine, whether it's Sudan, you know?
I think people are reacting. I think what's really interesting is I think we're definitely in a Renaissance period, right, in the Middle East in general, which is probably why I moved here, which is probably why you've moved here. We want to be where the center of like, I feel like a change and something exciting is happening, and something exciting is happening here. I think, but contrary to what you're saying, I think it's kind of like our reaction to this digital age.
Yeah, as well.
Yeah, because I feel like the digital age sparked, you know, movements in Egypt and Tunisia, and then that's had a knock-on effect, which had a knock-on effect for Syria. But now we're seeing that digital age and its implications in what's happening with Israel and Palestine. And I think that now is when we're seeing this kind of like, you know, this bubbling up of like how we're making sense of that, how we're making sense of mass communication. And
I think a lot of it is thinking about our place in the world. What does it mean to be human and all this kind of stuff? And especially in painting, there's a lot of these massive, big paintings that they want you to feel like you're a tiny person and there's this big world and how to make sense of it. So it's interesting that everything's cyclical, you know, everything kind of goes in cycles and in patterns. And it's interesting, but it's also sad because we've been here before, you know? Like
I think that's just the nature of human history. We're always going to repeat things. I love I love that feeling of being small.
Yeah.
I like, as a tall woman, I do love that feeling. I do find the desert like a really relaxing place because it's just like taking your mind away from everything, and that just like feeling quite insignificant gives me a lot of perspective.
Yeah, being in nature. Like a lot of these artists like Khalid Akil talk about this feeling of being in nature and being an insignificant organism in this massive thing that has no ego, right? Nature has no ego. It can't be controlled or contained. And trying to reinterpret that into painting and make the viewer feel the same way when they look at a painting that they would if they're in the middle of nature, you know, in the desert or in front of a massive waterfall.
I love it. So how long is the show on for?
It's on until June the 23rd. So there's still a while to go see it. I highly recommend you go check it out. He's an amazing artist.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
So next on our list to talk about is something I'm quite excited to talk about.
It's also very existential, makes you think about the world, makes you think about life. It is
Honeymoonish.
So it's an Arab rom-com.
It's an Arabic rom-com. So we've seen obviously rom-coms in the past, but this is kind of like done almost like a twist on quite a Western kind of like narrative. It's very fun. It's very modern. And it's about a woman who is kind of pining for an old boyfriend, right?
And
have you seen it?
I've seen it. You saw it.
I've seen it.
It's fun.
It's very fun. So it's starring Nour Al Ghandour as Nour. She's playing herself.
She's playing herself, but the name is spelled differently.
Is it?
So her name is Nour, and then her character is Noor.
Subtle.
Subtle, yeah.
And she's starring alongside Kuwaiti actor Mahmoud Boushahri in this rom-com. And it's filmed between Kuwait and... Is it meant to be Lebanon? Is that Lebanon?
It's Lebanon. It's not Beirut, it's Lebanon.
It's Lebanon, like in the hilltops of, like on the outskirts of Beirut, they go to a retreat. So the story goes that she has got this kind of like boyfriend, they break up, and then 2 weeks later she finds out.
Hang on. In her defense.
Okay, sorry.
In her defense, they don't break up. He marries somebody behind her back. He's like, I'm going to go to Beirut for 2 weeks for work. And then she finds out he's married.
On Instagram.
On Instagram or through her friend.
Or through her friend on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then she goes a bit
loopy. And she's like, you know what? I want some revenge. And
so she gets revenge. She marries like a big boss of a company who is desperate to get married because he needs to sort out his inheritance.
Yeah, so his dad's like, you want the business, you want the family fortune, you have to get married and get me an heir. So they both have ulterior motives going down the aisle.
This aisle. And then they end up, we won't ruin it.
We won't ruin it.
But Shock horror, they end up at the same retreat.
Well, she plans it because she wants to. Oh, is that ruining it?
I think that's ruining it.
No, I mean, I think it's not ruining. It's like she has a revenge plan.
Okay, she has a revenge
We won't
plot.
say what happened when they're in the retreat.
Yes. Although I think you can probably guess.
You can probably guess. But so it takes, like you said, this rom-com language that we know from the West of like, especially the early 2000s rom-coms, like How Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Never Been Kissed. It takes that visual language. It takes that idea of like the enemies to lovers, the big reveal, because there's like a big secret also that we won't give away to do with why they can't really be together, but maybe they will be together.
Yeah.
So it takes that, but it gives it like this Arab twist. Now, I got to interview the director, Elie El Samman, who's Lebanese. This is his first feature.
Amazing.
And it's done amazingly well on Netflix.
It's literally accumulated 14 million views in a second week. It was number one.
It was number one, and it's the top non-English film on Netflix seen around the world, which is pretty cool.
Including Canada, Sweden, and Nigeria. It was in the top 10 list.
Yeah, and they don't have a massive, I mean, Sweden does, but Nigeria, I don't think, Nigeria does have an Arab diaspora.
Maybe Canada does too.
But
regardless.
Yeah, regardless, it's all over the world.
Yeah, and it's really exciting. I think it's just like another way of like people understanding a bit more about the Middle East, maybe a side of the Middle East that they don't know.
Yeah, and also I think the director said, with everything the world is going through right now and with the style of drama that we're seeing on TV and on platforms in the Middle East at the moment, it's action and killing and kidnapping. I think people are tired of that because we're seeing a lot of it in real life anyway. I personally feel the Middle East and the world in general needs this genre at the moment. So he's talking about the rom-com genre and how, I love rom-coms. Anyone who knows me knows I love rom-coms, and they can be very frivolous and fun and entertaining, which I think is really important as part of our, visual and our entertainment experience. But I also think that rom-coms can tell you a lot about relationships and about society and about, I'm a big fan of Jane Austen, and they're not really like, people always think Jane Austen novels are like girly novels that are about love, but they're also about society and etiquette and about, pressure and societal pressure and who we should feel sorry for, who we shouldn't feel sorry for. And I think it's a really important genre. And I think the Middle East and the Arab world needs more of it, even if it doesn't have that serious stuff, even if it's just fun and frivolous and silly, because Arabs also are frivolous and fun and silly. It's not all about, doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom. I love that. Actually, I watched this meme the other day. Not meme. Is it like a meme when it's like a video and it's got words over it? Anyway, it was a really funny meme about like Arab men and like having to change stereotypes over Arab men, because they're like, oh, you think of Arab men being this, but actually all Arab men like to drink tea and most Arab men like cats.
Arab dads particularly.
Arab dads. And I was thinking about my dad and my granddad. I was like, yeah, cats and drinking tea.
To bring this back to Dubai Bling, it's...
Oh, segue.
One of the things that people have an issue with is reality TV, and they think it's like not a good representation of reality. But in the last season of Dubai Bling, what I loved is Mona Qattan having that beautiful moment with her father. She's Iraqi. Her father's obviously Iraqi. And how he spoke on screen about helping her build her and her sister's brand and taking a second mortgage or selling his house in Iraq to fund their company, and he was sitting there like doing that. Supportive father. And you usually don't get that image of Arab men in film, in the media. And so I think shows like Dubai Bling or a film like Honeymoonish helps to
break stereotypes.
Break that stereotype. You know what I mean?
Like we are here. So next on the list, okay, this has taken the internet by storm. Yeah. And I have to admit, like,
this is a chasm between our friendship.
Yeah, this is where you're like, Jane Austen.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Yeah. And I'm like, Bridgerton. Meh.
I mean, I don't know how to communicate with you if you're not into, if you don't see the...
I just think that, like, in our little trio at Culture Bites, we needed someone who likes action movies and dance music.
Oh,
and that's me.
Oh, okay.
Right?
You've given yourself that brand. Okay, cool.
I don't know if it's really a brand.
I like action movies. I love Die Hard. I love The Fugitive.
Do you like Jason Statham?
Yeah, he's brilliant. I got to meet him, interviewed him.
Did you?
We're about the same height. I was shocked.
Oh, I'm like the same height as his wife.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Have I met her? I think I've met her.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
we're just name dropping all over the place. We'll have to pick them all up.
Losers.
So Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. So
you're excited.
It was, season 3. For those of you who don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Bridgerton is a series about the Bridgerton family. It's like a Regency set drama. And each season focuses on one of the siblings finding love in this Regency era. It's based on a series of books by Julia Quinn, which are really brilliant. And it's produced by Shonda Rhimes, the woman behind Grey's Anatomy, from her company Shondaland. I think that's the name of her company. But what's interesting about the show is that it kind of has this Regency era with these characters, but race is not a thing.
It's not part of the storyline, right? It's breaking barriers in its own way.
So you have Asians, you have South Asians, you have Africans, you have Indian, you have everyone is in there. And the issue in the show is class. It's all about class and keeping up appearances. So it's not really about race, which I think is great. Similar to Honeymoonish, I'm going to segue back, is this idea of suspended disbelief. Usually when somebody presents you a novel or a book or a novel or a show or a movie, you just believe what they're giving you, Yeah. Which I love. I love this idea of race is not an issue here. And after all, you don't even notice someone is whatever race they are. So season 3 focuses on Penelope Featherington, who is played by, what's her name? The cool Irish actress.
Yeah, she was in Dairy Girls.
I love her in Dairy Girls. I'm going to look for her name.
Absolutely adore her.
Nicola Coughlan. I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Yes.
So it's focusing on her, and she's a controversial character because as these siblings are trying to find love, she is the kind of gossip girl of the show, where she has a hidden persona called Lady Whistledown, where each week she releases a newsletter that outs everybody and does, outs everyone's secrets. So this season is
such a gossip girl.
It is such a gossip girl premise.
Yeah.
So this season is focused on her falling in love, hopefully, with one of the Bridgerton brothers, and everything that entails.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm not going to give any spoilers because one of our producers is watching it and she hasn't seen it yet. But what I will say, which annoys me a little bit about this season, is that it really deviates from the book.
Yeah.
Which is fine because novels
You're
and shows...
such a book fan,
I'm a book fan, but novels and movies and shows are different beasts. They should deviate. But what I don't like about this is that they've kind of painted her a bit as like a pick me, choose me kind of girl, which I don't like that for the character. She's this independent woman who's written this newsletter, the Regency era, and she's making money, she's making dough from spreading news and gossip. As a writer, I'm glad that, that she's
not
doing
the
that.
gossip.
Not the gossip, no. We are fact-checked and approve everything. But, with her, it's just, she's doing a service for these people,
Yeah, I love that.
And she's one of the first influencers, I would say. And I don't like that she's positioned as this pick-me girl kind of thing, which is very vibey of Shonda Rhimes in Grey's Anatomy with, what's the main girl from Grey's Anatomy? Meredith Grey. That famous scene where she's pick me, choose me. It was so irritating. It put me off the whole series.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't like a pick me desperate.
But going back to Bridgerton breaking barriers when it comes to race, now we're seeing a lot more dramas.
Yeah.
Casting in more imaginative ways, because really it's all fake, right?
Yeah.
It's all phony, it's storytelling. So it really caused a big hoo-ha in the UK when that happened.
It's silly.
It's
really silly. For example, Romeo and Juliet, what's Zendaya's boyfriend's name? Tom Holland. That's how he will always be known as. Tom Holland, Spider-Man. So he's Romeo. And then I don't know that actress's name, but she is, I think, Black British.
Yeah.
And people were really upset and they were really annoyed. To me, that is insane because, first of all, Romeo and Juliet Shakespeare, I spoke last week about how that's my least favorite Shakespeare play, but it's completely fiction, right?
It's completely fiction. People are cross about it, I don't think, because of the race, though.
What are they cross about then?
They don't think that she's very pretty.
Okay, that's even worse. That's silly. That's...
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you think that Juliet has to be pretty?
Yeah, because in the play, she's really pretty.
He thinks she's pretty.
That's true.
So it's what he sees.
It's what he sees. So if he sees that she's pretty.
The Baz Luhrmann, is that how you say his name? Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
I don't think Claire Danes is Cindy Crawford, but that's just my
She's quite ethereal, though, isn't she?
Is she? I don't know. I'm not. I mean, Leonardo, what's his name? DiCaprio as well. Like, I mean,
What do you mean? It was
I
like
don't
his
know.
heyday. That was his era.
They were just two like emo-looking kids on TV. I was like, what is this? I mean, I found everybody else more interesting.
I mean, that's
on the
like
thing.
probably one of my favorite films of all time.
But you're right. I mean, a lot of shows and TV movies now have this idea of like, let's open up. What is that movie with Dev Patel? He was in it. It was also a period drama.
Yes.
Yes, I forget
Dev
what it's
Patel's
called.
brilliant.
He's amazing. I mean, not to name drop as well, but I met him a couple of years ago.
God, man.
He was amazing. He's like my favorite interview person I've ever interviewed.
He's really cool. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like him.
Yeah. But I think with these stories that have been done to death, like let's say Oliver Twist or even any Jane Austen novel or Charles Dickens's
Great Expectations,
or the Christmas one, Christmas Carol, they've been done so many times. We might as well, like, it'll be interesting to see different actors play them. However, the line does get blurred when you have real life people, like for example, the Anne Boleyn story, Anne Boleyn and Henry the Eighth, is he?
Yes.
Whatever, so many Henrys, we can't keep count. But like, I mean, I'm really sick of the Tudors as a story that we have to keep coming back to. And Tudors? Did the Tudors, Henry?
I think bring in the Abbasid era.
Yes,
You know?
100%.
Let's stop doing the Tudors. Let's start doing the...
Yeah, exactly, because we've said that story so many times.
Yeah,
but I think the latest miniseries of Anne Boleyn was played by the actress whose name I forgot, Pacey from Dawson's Creek's ex-wife. What's his name?
Is it Cate? This does not sound very educated
this
right
is
now.
Not,
We don't sound very smart.
I'm very bad with names. But
Anyway.
she's an actress of color and she's playing Anne Boleyn. And people had a big, they had their arms up in protest of that. And I don't know how people feel about that. A real historical figure being played by somebody who is not of the same race.
What do you feel about the Cleopatra drama then?
Well, with the Cleopatra drama, it's a bit more...
Because she was of Greek origin and she was played by a black woman.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's strange because she's Macedonian, Cleopatra Macedonian, and based on history, they know exactly her lineage, but for her grandmother from her father's side. And potentially she could have been Nubian, potentially. Like it's a very small chance.
But I think it's really small, isn't it?
It's very small. So even if her mother was Nubian and she was mostly Macedonian, what does that mean she looked like? And also back then, race wasn't looked at in the same way. They didn't think of race in the same way. Like just because you were darker skinned or from a specific place, we need to stop adding this like modern way we modern way we view race.
Yeah, I think also race and how we look at it in different countries, different places. Like I feel like race in England is one thing, race in America is another thing.
Yeah.
Race in the Middle East is one thing, race in Africa is another thing. Like we have to like really kind of understand that it's not just like this is how the world sees race. It's actually really nuanced.
It is. And we shouldn't be implementing how we see race now into history. But I think fundamentally, it's all about really good storytelling, which like with Bridgerton, for example, I'll say like it's a great story. It's a great premise, apart from the pick me part. So it kind of doesn't matter, even Romeo and Juliet, does it matter? Not really. You know what I mean? I think it depends what the film or the show is. Is it supposed to be a documentary that's historically accurate? Yeah, let's try and be historically accurate. If it's complete fiction and fantasy, then yeah, like
just let it
do
go.
Whatever,
Just let it go.
Let it go.
That's our message for the week.
Let it go.
Let it go. Thank you so much for listening.
And if you like what you saw today, make sure you share this video and this podcast to all your friends. You can hear us on Spotify and where all podcasts are available.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.